Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars and welcome to another PlayStation review. Today's review is for King's Bounty 2. Now this game was released just a couple of days ago on the PlayStation. It is available on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 5, and the gameplay footage you are seeing is from my PlayStation 5. Now King's Bounty 2 is an old school type strategic role-playing game. And essentially, you start off at the beginning of the game. You are allowed to choose from 3 predetermined characters, 1 male character and 2 female, I believe. You choose this character, and then the story starts, and it thrusts you right into the story. And it's nothing amazing. You've seen it all before in regards to the story. And at the beginning, you start off in a prison. You are released by the prince on certain conditions, and essentially these conditions are as long as you stop the bad guys from destroying his kingdom, so on and so forth. And you do that in a number of ways. So essentially at the beginning of the game it's just you, and then you are given access fairly early on to units or members of your army, whatever you want to call them. So initially at the beginning of the game, you've got some fairly basic human units. Now, what you need to do in this game to succeed is grow your army. And at the beginning of the game, you're going to find this game quite frustrating. I did find this game quite frustrating for the first 1 to 5 hours or so. The game has actually got quite a steep learning curve, and you'll find yourself getting a little bit frustrated with it because some of the battles are quite difficult. Now what happens is you can go into battle with up to 5 units, and these can be any number of units. They can range from human units, so you've got you can have knights, human archers, human spearmen, swordsmen, but you can also have mystical creatures. You can have golems, you can have wizards, you can have ghosts, you can have zombies, skeletons, bandits, dwarves. There's a whole array of these creatures and armies that you can add to your ranks. And it's up to you to decide how you want to disperse them into your army. I generally I settled on eventually, and it seemed to work for me, 3 mobile units, hand-to-hand units, a variation of swords, spears, mallet sort of things, and then 2 ranged units, 2 archer type units, and that worked pretty well for me. But early on in the game, you don't really get a choice to choose. You just kind of get what you're given. And resources are limited at the start of the game in regards to coin, because you need coin to recruit new members to your army. So it's not easy to come by early on in the game. So you find yourself losing a few battles at the beginning of the game, and you don't have the coin to replace them. So it's got quite a steep learning curve, and it does get quite frustrating. So just be aware of that. Once you get into the game, though, once you get over that learning curve, after about 5 or 6 hours or so, you start building up the strength of your army and the strength of your character, and battles become significantly easier in a sense of you understand what you're doing more, and your armies have become a little bit more powerful. And how do you make your armies more powerful? A number of ways, really. By leveling up. Once you level up, your army will become more powerful. You can get new gear for your character, like new swords, new helmets, armor sets, all that kind of stuff. And that will increase the strength of your character, which in turn increases the strength of your army. So if you put on a really good sword or a mallet, it might increase your warfare, so it'll make your army stronger. If you want to go down the wizard route, you can give him a staff, your character, and that will increase your magic and things like that. But there's also ways to level up in the game by spending points on talents. Essentially, it's a skill tree. So once you spend these talents in the skill tree, that will also increase the power of your army. So the army will get stronger as you get stronger, and then the game gets a little bit easier, and you find some battles that you had to retreat from earlier on in the game, you can go back to after a few hours when you've built the strength of your army, and you can defeat them much easier than you were earlier. The game is fully voice acted, even though the voice acting is of a fairly poor standard for the most part. It's pretty wooden, some of the voice acting that's going on, but it's okay. I've certainly heard worse. The game itself at times looks beautiful, the environments and things, but at the same time it looks terrible sometimes. Some of the cutscenes, some of the characters, some of the facial hairs and things like that, it looks really janky. And at times it looks like a good PlayStation 4 game, and at times it looks like a decent PlayStation 3 game. It's very up and down in regards to how it looks, the game. Performance-wise, I've had no issues, I've had no real glitches to speak of, and I've had no crashes so far. The biggest glitch that I have come across while playing this game is more like voice-related, like when characters are talking to each other. Sometimes they won't finish a sentence before it clips out, or it'll move on to the next person saying something, and that has happened throughout my playthrough of the game. So the game could do certainly with a little bit of polish. It certainly does feel a little bit janky. It feels a little bit dated in its presentation, but it's certainly playable. The battles themselves are turn-based battles, so if you're a fan of turn-based strategy games like your XCOMs and things like that, you will feel immediately comfortable here. And once you get used to the battles and the systems and how they work and how best to position your units, they become much more enjoyable. And essentially you'll move your units around the map, deciding where to place them and how to best attack your enemies. But what you've also got as well is your leader character. While they won't get directly involved in the battles, they are there on the map to essentially do the spells. Now, early on in the game, you won't have access to many spells, but again, as you level up and as you get like crystals and things like that in the game, and you pick up scrolls, you are given the opportunity to learn new magic spells. And once you've learned them, they are constantly in your arsenal then, and you are allowed to use them in battle. And you can upgrade the spells and things like that to make them more powerful as you progress through the game. Now, the game essentially consists of wandering around a fairly sizable map, and there is fast travel involved. Picking up missions. You've got your main storyline missions connected to the prince and what he wants you to do, and that kind of branches out into other stories and things. And then you've got a mountain of side quests that you can pick up and take on as well. For the most part, you will actually probably find yourself skipping dialogue scenes because the dialogue isn't particularly interesting, the characters aren't particularly memorable, and some of the side quests are pretty dull, I think it's fair to say. Because it could consist of, can you collect me this crystal? Can you collect me this scroll? My pig's been kidnapped, my brother's gone missing, etc, etc. Nothing major, really. And so you'll wander around the map picking up these side quests, but certain areas on the map will be locked, and to unlock them you have to engage in a battle. And once you've won that battle, you can then proceed on into the map and to the next section. There is a whole range of shops and things for you to buy new equipment, new scrolls. There are recruiters scattered all over the map, and each recruiter will specialise in a certain area. So you'll get like one recruiter with human characters, one recruiter with dwarves, another recruiter with mystical characters, another recruiter with like ghostly characters, skeletons, zombies, etc. And they're all scattered at different places around the map. And once you level up as a character, as your leadership increases, what used to be like a 5, you might have had, you've got 5 units, but for example, your bow and arrow men might just have 5 people in it. But as you level up, you can increase that and have more people in the unit. So your bow and arrow men will increase to 10 rather than 5 eventually as you level up. And your swordsmen and your knights, etc, etc. So that's how you make your army more powerful in numbers as well. There is plenty of treasure scattered around the map, so it does encourage exploration, the game itself. And it's how to score this game is quite difficult, because I'm not going to lie, I've been really quite addicted to this game. It feels very old school. I'm not going to lie, it does feel very old school. I'm not sure it warrants the price tag it's been put on it. I think if this had been something like $39.99, it would have been more suited, I think, to the game. But there's plenty on offer here. It is a little bit old-fashioned. It's weirdly familiar if you're used to strategic RPGs, but it is not breaking any new ground at the same time. So from my perspective, I'm certainly enjoying this. If you're not sure on it, I would probably wait for a sale. But I think 8 out of 10 is a fair score because I'm actually enjoying this game an awful lot. But there are far more technically sound games out there in regards to the RPG genre. So maybe you might want to wait before you pull the trigger in this one. So I hope you enjoyed this review, guys. I hope you found it useful. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll be back with plenty more reviews on the channel very, very soon.